Hello and welcome to Peoria Stadium here in Peoria, Illinois, where we are already seconds away from kickoff. Both the Peoria Lions and the Decatur MacArthur Generals couldn't wait to get started. We are ready to get things underway as the Lions vie for a deep playoff bid at 8-1. MacArthur visiting from Decatur at 5-4. The kick is already away. A good kick rolls near the end zone, and Peoria High won't get good field position to start out. And a great play on special teams to start this game for Decatur. And again, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. I'm Jonathan Michael. Alongside me is John Camosa here in the booth. And John, we were talking a lot before this game about all the different storylines. And for Peoria, really, they have lots of experience, lots of trust and maturity in their season that they've had so much success with so far.
Yeah, Coach Tim Thornton said this offensive line has matured, and really that's what's been the focal point for the Peoria High Lions. Those offensive linemen giving holes to Malachi Washington, who has over 2,000 yards rushing. He's been a star.
Definitely, and they will start in deep in their own territory, and a great play by MacArthur early on. Peoria backed up near their own end zone. That was Jamarion Singleton, the junior linebacker for MacArthur, making the play. But again, apologies to our viewers for hitting the air pretty close to kickoff. But again, these teams wanted to get out on the field quick and get going. Joko, one thing we talked about for MacArthur, though, the story for them is they have two really good wide receivers and they'll be throwing to. But on the defensive end, as we see right now, starts kind of up front with Roderick Millsap at defensive back and then also King Smith on the defensive line.
Yeah, and I think one thing for MacArthur, especially in a road game opening round, you want to come out and make that statement early on defense, putting Peoria High deep. And if they can get the ball back in their possession, that, like you said, Azarian Richardson and Sam Owens, two really good wide receivers.
Peoria High on offense, they face a 3rd and 3 from their own 13. Tino Gist, the quarterback for Peoria, throws it out, and he's got a man open down the side to the 20-yard line. So a quick first down for Peoria gives them breathing room after a scary opening first couple plays where they almost got tackled for a safety.
Yeah, and that's one thing with Peoria High we've seen all season. It's go, go, go. They really speed up their offense, throws off most defenses.
Tim Thornton said on our In the Clutch Live podcast that we're a team that caters to people who have ADD. We don't really waste too much time. We're just going, going, going all the time. And they do there with Malachi Washington, their star running back, who has over 2,000 yards on the season. We'll see lots of him as we do here, but in the backfield, MacArthur was ready for it. Big tackle there by their defensive line. That may have been Kumar Gillespie. That was rather King Smith, who we just mentioned there on the tackle, bringing down Washington for a loss of 3.
Yeah, so early on, Decatur MacArthur's defense dialed in, and getting through that offensive line is going to be crucial for them. Right now, the defensive line doing a nice job of pushing through.
2nd and 13 for Tino Gist and the Lions. He'll roll out to the near side. He's looking for Hearn, but he instead drops it around the middle, looking for Sean Franklin, incomplete.
Yeah, they put some pressure on him that time. Gist has to roll out. Just incomplete. Now Peoria High faced with that 3rd and 13. And they're used to some of these long 3rd down situations, John, but they can get a first down from just about anywhere on the field.
Third and 13. As we get a flag on the, rather a timeout called. Looks like by MacArthur. They want to talk things over before 3rd and long here from their own 35.
Yeah, and this is a situation you might see Peoria High go to the air, try to get Ricky Hearn open. Got to find one of those playmakers downfield. But they also have the capability to keep it on the ground in a long 3rd down situation with Malachi Washington. He can get out there and run if he gets a good block, gets that extra yardage.
And Joko, another thing that we were talking about before this game, it's going to be big for Peoria. Maybe gets overlooked a bit, as it does with a lot of high school football teams, but their offensive line is incredibly strong, has lots of size as well.
Yeah, and they're still young. That's the thing. They're learning, and they've, through these 9 weeks, heading into the postseason week 1, they've only gotten better and developed, but it's a line that not many of them have taken a varsity snap till this season.
Actually, there were no returning starters on the offensive line this year as Washington gets to give up the gun. He's free across the 50. Malachi Washington, a burst of speed, and that will put Peoria in MacArthur territory. A big run early on, right up the gut.
And I think they've shown that throughout the season. They have that much trust in their running back. Even on 3rd and 13, they know he can get them yards.
Quick snap goes to Washington up the middle right. And that will take it to about the 36 or so. But, Joko, I think one thing that MacArthur really has got to be wary about, and we hope they practiced, and I'm sure they did, was their conditioning, because they're not going to get many breaks when the defense is out there on the field.
I mean, you can see right now only 9 minutes left, so they've taken some clock down early in this first quarter.
Just turns around in the pocket, looking for Hearn along the far side. He's got him inside the 20. The Lions in the red zone. And that elicits cheers from the Lions sideline across the way from us. Again, thanks for joining us here on this beautiful afternoon here from Central Peoria at the historic Peoria Stadium. The Lions 8-1, looking for a deep run in the postseason. Many think that they are a legitimate state contender, and they look to prove so today. Washington up the gut to the 10, a gain of about 6.
And going back to your previous point, John, of kind of catering to, fans with ADD or people watching at home, this is a team, too, that there's no slowdown. They also onside kick and go for 2 every possession.
Peoria High, they're greedy. They always want the points.
They like to score.
They do. They always want the ball as well. As Washington flips forward for a short gain. That'll bring up 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. 2 wide receivers for Gist. He'll hand off to Washington. Why not? Malachi Washington plunges into the end zone, and Peoria High on the board early with Malachi Washington. How many times have we seen that this year?
Took the words right out of my mouth, so I was just going to say, we've seen that for 9 weeks. Now it carries over to the opening round of the playoffs, and there is no slowing down in Malachi Washington. Another great block up front, able to get in there. And here's this 2-point conversion we talked about.
The Lions never kick extra points, always go for 2. And that one is successful. So Malachi Washington, who was a 2-point conversion specialist last year, hones in on his old tricks. The Lions lead 8-0 early on.
Yeah, talking about not getting that break. So Peoria High with the quick 8-0 lead. Now MacArthur's got to make sure they're set and recover this ball on an onside attempt if Peoria High elects to do that, which we've seen them do a lot this season.
Sure thing. And
always got to be on your toes.
Sure thing. We'll take a quick break to remind you that today's broadcast is brought to you by Jody Brown State Farm Agency. For all your insurance needs, give Jody a call at the number on your screen or visit jodybrown.agency.com. And also another word for our other great neighbors over at State Farm, Zach Butler in Pekin, Jake Weston in Washington. Wherever you are in the 309 area, you're not far from a State Farm agent. Give either one of them a call or visit them online at the websites displayed there on the screen. Nothing at Peoria High early on, and Joko, MacArthur is going to have to start out hot. They knew that this was going to be a tough task, play on the road against Peoria. They know what they need to do on their ensuing drive.
Yeah, we haven't really seen a whole lot of teams match Peoria High, on defense, so it's got to come on offense. You just got to try to get in a scoring battle with them.
Onside kick attempt off the foot of Gideon El Hassan is recovered by MacArthur, so the hands team there was ready, and on the recovery for the Generals was Sam Owens. We'll be seeing lots of him, junior wide receiver for MacArthur.
We'll see how MacArthur starts this drive. They go to the air like we talked about. Azarian Richardson, Sam Owens, two playmakers out there as you see them both line up.
Good starting field position for MacArthur. 40 on the 49-yard line. So again, that's maybe the potential downside of Peoria kicking their onside kicks every time they score, giving opponents good field position. But their defense, very strong as it has been all year. And this one will be Cam France, their quarterback, on the keeper. And in the backfield, that was Landon Newby Wholesome and Rontavis Lee wreaking havoc, bringing down France for a loss.
And like you said, John, that's one thing that Peoria High is not too worried about field position. We started the season, Tim Thornton said how much this defense has developed, only, allowing close to about 16 to 20 points this year, so they can afford to put a midfield. The Lions have really been dialed in defensively.
Some guys to watch for Peoria on defense. Watch their middle linebacker, number 9, Gary Rutherford, and Eli McFadden. They're a lockdown cornerback. He'll be looking to put Owens and Azarian Richardson on an island today. France with the throw, broken up there by McFadden. He was looking for Richardson. That was matchup of the fours on the outside and passed a little bit too low.
And how about this start on defense for the Lions? Not giving them anything. They'd love to have the ball back, put it in Malachi Washington's hands.
Washington certainly getting a breather, but he can be a workhorse for them. Had 41 carries a couple weeks ago. Again, over 2,000 yards on the season. But what a year it's been for the Peoria High running back. But 3rd and 12 for MacArthur. Fres goes on the field looking for Richardson, and it's just a couple inches too far out of his hands. A good play call there, but just a little bit too far down the sideline.
Awfully close. Richardson almost had that one in his hands, about a half a step. Nice throw there from France, but it sails just a little bit. And Peoria High going to probably get this ball back here. Well, there's a flag too, John.
There was a flag. It was holding on MacArthur. The penalty will be declined, so that will bring out the punt unit for MacArthur, 3 and out on their first drive. And certainly not what you want. Again, a lot of time left in this one, but there's got to be wary that Peoria High can run up the score early on. They get out to fast starts nearly every time.
And it's hard to say, you have to make those defensive stops because we haven't seen a whole lot of teams do that this year. Lions are capable of putting up a lot of points.
Kenny Rutherford back deep to return. He'll let this go back down to about the 12-yard line. A great punt there by MacArthur. So Peoria High will start deep in their own territory again. But Joko, talking about the Peoria High offense, it's been amazing all year long. In all of their wins, they have been by 18 or more points. So they haven't had a 2-possession game yet this year. And from September 9th to the 29th, they had 4 straight games where they scored 60 or more points. And believe it or not, their boys basketball team, the Lions boys basketball team, only scored 66 points on 5 occasions last year. So their football team almost putting up as many points as their basketball team. How about that?
That's impressive. Just a tough break there, John, for Peoria High, as Gist tackled in the backfield.
It'll be second and very long, second and 17 to be exact. Gist hands off to Washington, who muddles his way up to about the 10-yard line, bringing up a 3rd and long. But one thing I've liked about MacArthur so far is they've been able to put Peoria in tough spots and force them into 3rd down situations. They're going to need a lot of those.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of making that big stop.
Execution will be key, and they do so here. A big tackle there, and King Smith and company were in on the tackle, along with Shaylin Page from the linebacker position as well. One of only a few seniors on the starting unit for MacArthur's defense.
So long 4th and 7. Remember, the Lions don't punt the ball much.
They do not. They don't find themselves in this part of the field much either.
If MacArthur gets a big stop, they're in great field position.
Owls need a stop. It'll be a quick kick. Tino just punts it high in the air, and that gets a Peoria bounce. This will turn out pretty well for the Lions, as that punt is downed at the 45 by Malachi Washington. So a quick kick there. That one went the angle very, very high, but gets a good bounce. And MacArthur will start their drive in similar position to their last one.
Because it's kind of unique, John, if you notice how they do that. And we've seen that in so many games this season. You got your quarterback as your punter. Almost looks like he lines up in the shotgun like they're going for it. Might throw some defenses off. In turn, he just catches and punts the ball.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers used to run that sometimes with Ben Roethlisberger. I think he has a couple punts to his name. First and 10 from the 45 for Cameron France and MacArthur. And a motion man out to the outside. And wrapped up right away is the ball carrier Richardson back to the 40. Looked like Patrick Jordan was one of the couple of Lions that were there on the stop. So defensive lines coming out very strong. It's something that when I talked with Tim Thornton before the game, he said that he's really wanting to take advantage of MacArthur's offensive line, not because they're weak, but maybe because Peoria High's defensive line is very strong as well.
Yeah, they know that coming into the postseason. Defense is key with any team that you're going to play. So the Lions want to try to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback today.
France takes the snap. Looking to the far side, he was looking for Cam Owens. Would have been his 29th reception of the year, but again, falls a little bit too far in front of him. But Joko, this reminds me a lot of last night's game when we saw Pekin and Plainfield Central. A lot of the throws that Plainfield Central had weren't exactly complete, but if they were complete, they weren't throwing an interception. That's what I've seen here from France. He's not throwing many dangerous passes.
No, he hasn't, and if you see how these routes are being ran, the wide receivers got really good spacing between the secondary and these corners, so they're throws that are almost right there on the money for touchdowns like we saw last night with Plainfield Central.
MacArthur is a team that's full of playmakers. 3rd and 12 from the 43, and France in trouble, gets it out to Richardson. He is brought down by Newbie Wholesome with authority. Back to the 41 to go the Generals, and it will be another 3 and out as Peoria defense stepping up big and proving why they shouldn't be overlooked.
And one of those veteran leaders on the team, John, how good has Newbie Wholesome been this year? Just a key part in that defense.
Newbie Wholesome was a guy that was looked at as a leader on this team coming into the year. He's a two-way player, plays fullback and defensive line, as low line drive punt from, looks like that was Owens, will roll down on the near side to about the 21-yard line. So MacArthur, 2 and outs to start. Peoria High looking for their second touchdown of the game, and Joko, it's a team that puts up over 48 points per game. 48 yards, they get that usually on the first maybe 3 plays of the game.
Yeah, they're used to scoring in bunches, and MacArthur wants to try to limit that, but like you said earlier, John, they just wear you down throughout the game, and then when they find that little spacing, they will take it in for 6, and Peoria High loves to run the ball. They also air it out as well. Just so many playmakers on this team.
Give goes to Washington, arguably the biggest one on the team. He stopped for a little gain as Shaylin Page was there on the stop. But Washington, he's not an easy back to bring down, John. He'll wear you down at 5'10", 205 pounds. So he is a truck of a running back that will wear you down and also has amazing game-changing speed as well. Really all that you want in a running back.
Yeah, not only just the speed, but the strength. Just a great build, and he'll run right through you.
2nd and long, and the MacArthur defensive line comes up again with another good stop. It's not easy to prevent Washington from breaking a big game, but so far they've done that. Really admirable effort from the guys up front like Mylan Knapp, King Smith, and Kamar Gillespie.
And they knew that coming in. If there's one thing you key in on, it's Malachi Washington. Right now the defense is holding strong.
Just throws a screen pass to Washington, and what a tackle in open field. Peoria obviously will go for it here, but it looked like that was Jamari Tenen, their linebacker, the sophomore, making the open field tackle. Not hard, not easy to do, rather.
No, because he gets one quick step on you and he can take it to the house, but they tracked him down one-on-one, able to bring Washington down.
Just tries to get the MacArthur defensive line with a hard count, unsuccessful. Tries again, no dice. Just hands it off to Washington, goes up the gut. It's gonna be close, but it looked like MacArthur was able to get the stop.
I think they did, and they do.
That's a huge play for this Generals defense. You hear them yelling on the sideline. They need plays like that, those big plays, to help keep them in this game. And that's just what you want, because now you have the ball on Peoria High's 30-yard line.
Yeah, and when you make a big stop like that defensively, especially on fourth down, it gets your guys fired up on defense. You channel that energy over to the sidelines. Offense comes out, they're fired up. That's good coming into a big drive, and MacArthur's looking to score here if they can get through this solid defense right now, Peoria High.
Energy is always contagious, especially in the playoffs. So much on the line for MacArthur. Screen pass thrown out to Roderick Millsap. He's inside the 20. Flag flies. Multiple flags on the play. Well, we will await the call, but
yeah, if that's a holding call, that'd be. That it is. And John, we talked about this, and Larry and I, and we've talked about this throughout the season, but those little mental mistakes, especially come playoffs, those penalties can really cost you, especially after a big play.
Certainly, and usually on big plays, it tend to be some penalties, like a hold or like a block in the back. We saw a couple of them at Pekin last night, but certainly that is something we've been talking about all season long is, maybe a week, 1 through 2 or 3, obviously, you can get away with it. Obviously, you're a little bit rusty, spending a couple months in the offseason away from game action. But here, not much room for error, because if you lose, you go home.
Yeah, this is when you're going to have to put all those weeks together, the regular season, to get ready and play your best games week in and week out in the postseason.
Will be trips right for Cameron France, the MacArthur quarterback, and flag flies again.
That's back-to-back penalties.
That'll be a false start, backing it up to the 40-yard line, so 1st and 20 coming up for MacArthur. They'll need to get creative in their playbook now. But Joko, talking about Cameron France, he hasn't been their season-long starter. He stepped in after MacArthur's normal starting quarterback, Brylan McCood-Jones, was injured in week 7, I believe. So McCood-Jones out now. Cameron France, a dual-threat quarterback, stepping in.
And you put him in a very big spot. Is that another one?
Very well could be. We'll look at the call here.
It's another false start.
Illegal procedure, rather, on the Generals. And after being inside the 20, after that screen pass to Millsap, they now have the ball back on their own, or on Peoria's 45-yard line. Difference of about at least 25 yards.
Yeah, quite the transition after that big play, and you never want to let the penalties beat you. Try to let the defense beat you.
A little bit of a hole being taken out of MacArthur's sails. France goes deep down the field. He was looking for Jatavian Harper, and Harper was looking for a flag. Neither party will see a completion or a flag, rather. Incomplete pass will bring up 2nd and a country mile.
I think they were looking for a holding, or I should say a pass interference there on the sidelines. Not going to get it. set up with another long down situation, John.
And this Peoria High secondary being challenged early. France not being afraid to air it out. Eli McFadden and Kenny Rutherford, though, have been huge presences in the Lions secondary, along with Nazir Chambers and Phil Ellis. All four of those guys will figure to see some balls thrown their way. France in the gun, 2nd and 25. Another deep pass down the field. He's got Owens, and that one's complete inside the 20. First down for MacArthur. Another big play and a late hit. That will cost Peoria. That was egregious.
Yeah, that's not what you want right there if you're Peoria High after a big play, but now they're going to move them up even further, John. Can't have those late penalties.
So after the 3 straight flags on MacArthur, a big completion to Sam Owens and the flag on Gary Rutherford for the late hit out of bounds. How about a turn of the tide there? MacArthur looks like they'll be inside the 10 after this penalty.
And they had that really nice play. It gets called back after 3 straight penalties, but right back and even closer than where they were to start. Looking to score here on this.
1st and goal from the 6. What a turn of events that play was. 39 yards, the Generals advance. 4 wide receivers for France. Looks out to his side, and he has got Ellis, or rather that was Roderick Millsap. Pardon the correction, gain of just 1, so 2nd and goal as time ticking down here in quarter number 1, but Joko, if MacArthur can score here, they'd be probably pretty thrilled to go into quarter number 2, either at 8-6 or 8-7, 8-8, depending on what they decide to do after a potential touchdown. They're knocking on the door.
Yeah, not only that, but you got to be pretty thrilled if you can get out of this quarter with Peoria High only scoring 8 points. That's something we don't typically see, so their defense is really trying to make a stop.
The defensive line stepped up big for MacArthur, and time will run out in this first quarter. So Malachi Washington, the lone scorer for Peoria High on the opening drive of the game, punches it in for 2. So far, that's the only score, but MacArthur with momentum that they will try and continue into quarter number 2. We'll take a quick break to remind you today's broadcast brought to you by Jody Brown State Farm here in Peoria. For all your insurance needs, give Jody a call, 309-693-1103 or jodybrown.agency.com. And also for our other great neighbors at State Farm, give them a call at Zach Butler in Pekin, Jake Weston in Washington. Give them a call at their numbers or visit them online at their websites. I want to thank Jody, Zach, and Jake for their support of high school athletics all year long. So it will be 2nd and goal for MacArthur. And Joko, what do you expect for them to do here? We haven't seen them run the ball a ton. Haven't really seen many carries from any of their running backs. Yeah. MJ Murphy went down with an injury in week 7. Haven't seen any of him since. He could come back today, might not. But really, most of the run game has come from their quarterback, France.
Yeah, I expect France to maybe get out on the pocket, maybe kind of roll out, look for Owens or Richardson. They, haven't really ran the ball much, and that defensive line up front strong. They're still putting pressure, so I expect France here to maybe roll out or sit in the pocket, wait for something to open up over the middle.
Playbook is fairly open here. 5 yards to go. Could run, could pass. Again, trips left, very close to the offensive line, though, and France will keep it, just like you said, John. He gets inside the 5 before he is brought down by Jordan.
We haven't seen him keep the ball. He tried to create his own spacing, take it in himself.
Patrick Jordan, defensive lineman, wrapped him up. Good sound tackle there.
This is where Peoria High wants to stand strong, make a statement here. How big would this stop be, John, if they can somehow get this back and hold MacArthur to no points?
Would be a heartbreaker for MacArthur after a couple good plays all in a row after committing 3 straight penalties that backed him up about 25 yards. This give goes to the outside and being wrapped up, Ron Tavis Lee. Big tackle for Peoria High, and he's made a couple of them so far. He stopped Jatavion Harper for a loss.
Yeah, you go for it here. 4th and 7 on the 7. I'm going to try to come out of this possession with something. But the Lions, how about making a stand at home right now on defense?
Defending the den.
If they can get this ball back, a lot of momentum on the Lions side.
Certainly a huge play here for MacArthur, looking to get on the scoreboard here on the road, trailing 8-0, looking to upset the Peoria Lions. France looking to the outside, he's got Richardson, and there's a flag being thrown. He got held. Looked like by Eli McFadden, the guilty party there. And MacArthur will get new life. This should give Decatur MacArthur a first down.
Yeah, another chance at it, and that was big for MacArthur. It was a clear hold there, pass interference.
Azarian Richardson was a target there. He is a big playmaker for this Generals team, a real deep threat. Averages nearly 20 yards per catch. Also a red zone threat as well, as MacArthur will take the snap from the 4-yard line, about 3.5, half the distance to the goal. So they get 3 more, rather probably more likely 4 more chances.
So it looks like it's staying 4th down, John. 4th and 3.
Will be a 4th and goal rather. You can't get a first down because of the penalty yardage. So it'll be 4th down. Reverse play, trick play here in the backfield. Being wrapped up was Richardson, and the Lions run off the field ecstatic. They have a huge stop, preventing MacArthur from potentially tying this game up.
That's a huge stop for Peoria High. They just put so much pressure up on that defensive, or I should say the defensive line put so much pressure up front there. MacArthur couldn't get anything going on that drive.
I don't mind that play call there, Joko. Haven't really seen much trickery. It looked like Richardson was going to try and get rid of that ball and throw it maybe to the back corner of the end zone, something that Peoria hasn't seen yet, but
I was thinking that or throw it back to France on the opposite end on the left-hand side. He had him open, but I don't think he had time to look over there.
Would have been likely a cross-body throw, so Tito Gist will roll out for Peoria. He's looking deep. He's got a man. That's TQ Webb down the sideline and out of bounds. Huge play for the Lions, and the momentum swings in this game have been massive, and it's evident there again as Gist hooks up with his sophomore receiver TQ Webb.
And that's how quick it can turn. You get a big stop on defense. You open up with one big pass to start your first possession of this drive, and just like that, past midfield and great field position.
Down to the 35-yard line, a completion of over 40 yards. This handoff goes to the Lions for another good gain, down to about the 25, getting about 10 for the Lions workhorse.
And that stop for Peoria High could be a huge turn here in the first half. MacArthur didn't come out of it with any points. Peoria High trying to get in there again.
Washington goes up the gut, gets a couple before being wrapped up, but so far we've seen lots of big stops from both defensives, both lines playing well, but for Peoria, they've been able to take advantage of those big plays and keep the momentum going and overall execute just a bit better than MacArthur so far in this one. Just rolls out, pressure in the pocket, throw to the sideline was ultimately dropped. It was in the hands. It looked like Ricky Hearn, the primary wideout for Peoria, was the target there. Can't bring it in. That will bring up a 3rd and 5 from just inside the red zone.
I think we might see Washington again. He loves to run them on these 3rd down plays.
The draw will go to Washington, and he's wrapped up right away. First man there was Mylan Knapp. A big tackle there for the senior. And that will be another 4th down situation for Peoria. So give credit to MacArthur. It's not many teams have been able to put the Lions in 4th down situations this year.
Yeah, the defensive line is looking very strong up front.
4th and 3, 2 men in the backfield. Newbie Wholesome, the fullback to it just left. Washington in the backfield. Just will keep it. Option play to Washington, and it's dropped. Nothing you can do but just go out of bounds and prevent a scoop and score, but MacArthur will take good advantage of that miscue by Peoria. They haven't seen much of those this year, but the Generals able to survive the big completion TQ Webb and get the ball right back.
Yeah, now that energy has just got to transfer over to the offensive side. Defense has really played strong here in the first 2 quarters. Now offense gets in that end zone. We got a ball game, but MacArthur's defense up front, like you said, John, we haven't seen many teams this year stop Peoria High's running game, but MacArthur making a stand strong, and that's what you have to do in the postseason.
And this MacArthur team, Joko, you look at it on paper, they had 5 wins this year. None of their wins came against a team that are playing in the IHSA playoffs, but this is a gritty team that knows how to win. Back in week 6, the Generals trailed Springfield 28-12 before rattling off 22 straight points, including a game-winning touchdown as time expired to Jamore Singleton. So the Generals can get it done in crunch time, and they play to their level of the opponent. They're always, can never count them out.
Yeah, they've learned from so many games, as their record indicates. They had some nice wins, some losses, and you build on all of those games. You take that into the postseason and really try to put out your best effort. But right now, their effort's coming on defense, and offense getting another shot at it. But holding Peoria High to those 8 points through this much of the first half speaks volumes for Decatur MacArthur.
Certainly, and they've been throwing the ball a lot, with Francie's looked a lot to Sam Owens and Nazarian Richardson. Haven't really seen them run it that much. I believe we have yet to see a running back carry the ball for MacArthur so far. So they've been getting it done mostly with the pass, and if they can maybe find a big play or two, Joko, again, their defense has done their job. Now can the offense do theirs and potentially tie this game up?
Yeah, they've certainly had points where it's been there. Owens, Richardson, they can get out and expose the secondary. They've had a couple times where they're open, as we've seen. So it's just a matter of France putting it in their hands.
France can put it in their hands or keep it himself. He has 78 rushing yards and a touchdown in only a couple games this year. Again, France came in for normal starting quarterback Brylan McCood-Jones, as the latter suffered an injury, as we get a stoppage.
Another penalty flag. And
play. It looks like they're walking it back. And MacArthur, the flags continue to put a ding in the side of their boat. That'll be 1st and 15 from now inside the 20.
Yeah, that's one thing you can try to clean up moving forward into that second half. Try to limit those penalties.
France motions Singleton closer to the line, and this one will go to Richardson. He's looking for the outside. Can't quite turn the corner before Eli McFadden and company are there for the stop. Gets pretty close to the original line of scrimmage. Richardson has 21 catches for 397 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year. Sam Owens, his counterpart, also pretty comparable as well. 28 catches for 383 and 5 touchdowns. And Owens had a big game against Springfield, that big comeback win. 114 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the one that set up the game-winning score. 2nd and 8 from the 27. MacArthur lobbing it down the field, and flag flies. This could be a hold. MacArthur thinks it's a hold, and it very well could be. I don't really know what else it could be other than a defensive hold there, Joko.
Yeah, throw downfield, and then that flag came out, so I think that's what we're going to get.
Flag on the play, holding on the Lions.
And we'll be holding on the Lions, so that will give a little bit better field position to MacArthur, who plays in the Central State 8 Conference, a very strong conference that sends multiple teams deep in the playoffs each year. And Joko, next year, both the Big 12 and the Central State 8 will be emerging to play some non-conference games, so Peoria could be playing the Generals or other very strong teams in the conference in the very near future.
Yeah, definitely provide that challenge early on, and so many talented teams, Central State 8 and the Big 12. The Big 12, as we've seen with Normal West, Centennial, Peoria High, Normal Community, a lot of playoff teams, some high caliber, and that's what's gotten the Lions prepared for their postseason.
Normal Community were big winners last night against Hononegah up in Rockton. So the Ironmen will host the Pekin Dragons, who you may have just seen last night here on ClutchSportsIL.com. They rolled to a 51-14 win over Plainfield Central in the first round of Class 7A.
I don't know about you, John, but that's one game I got circled. That should be a really good one.
Big 12 and Mid-Illini crossover matchups. There's really not much better than that. And again, these Big 12 and Central State 8 games could be very interesting as well, because if Peoria High, if they get Sacred Heart Griffin or Rochester, those are just two state title contenders right there. Matchup in the regular season. Wouldn't that be fun?
No, definitely. Something to look forward to next season for sure.
First and 10 from the 47. And Fred's looking for Owens, and he's got him inside the 40. Another acrobatic catch, and Owens has had a couple of those so far. He turns his body almost gracefully like a ballerina, jumping and pirouetting in the air. Not sure what that move is called, but Owens, very athletic, and brings down the catch for a big gain.
Yeah, great hand-eye coordination there, able to pull that one down kind of on his defender's back somehow. Still able to haul it in. Sometimes those are bobbled, we've seen, and not here. So MacArthur, nice field position once again.
You see France throwing to Owens a lot. For the most part of this game, Azarian Richardson has been matched up with Eli McFadden, who, by all intents and purposes, one of the strongest defensive backs in the Big 12 Conference. France throwing it deep. He's looking for Jamor Singleton there. Pass incomplete. I'll bring up second and down.
And John, wouldn't you say out of a lot of their incompletions, those passes have been just about right there?
Yeah, not too many passes being too far out of the hands of any MacArthur receiver. France has been right on the money for the most part, and really not allowing Peoria High to intercept a passing lane and find an easy interception. That's one thing you can't do against Peoria High, is have a turnover, because, again, that gives them momentum, and they take advantage of that typically pretty quickly.
Yeah, and they're not thrown behind or short. They're right over the secondary, well defended, but they're still right there for the wide receivers.
Just under 6.5 to go here. Fred's looking deep for Jatavian Harper, but that one was out of bounds much before Harper could even get there. So third down as the drive begins to stall slightly for the Generals.
And that one just sails away from them a little bit. And another third and long situation. I think we stay to the air, though. We've seen that from this Decatur MacArthur offense.
And for Peoria High, really their defense is exemplifying the bend, don't break mentality. Selling a broken record. We've talked about it quite a lot, especially last night in Pekin as well with you and Larry Larson on the call, Joko. But it seems like when teams cross the 50, that's when the Peoria High defense steps up and just really locks in. Makes it really hard for opponents to score. France pressured in the pocket. Screen pass out to the outside. That's Roderick Millsap with the catch, but he'll be brought down for a loss. It would have been better if he just would have dropped it. And that'll bring up a fourth and very long. Tawan Smith and Newbie Wholesome, it looked like, were there in on the stop.
So what do you do here, John? You go for it or punt? I think you try to go for it, put a little pressure, but it's going to be a long one.
4th and 18 is the official measurement, and I could see definitely why you would want to go for it. Obviously, you want to keep the foot on the gas, but a good punt here. Maybe do a quick kick like the Lions did with Gist. You could pin Peoria High pretty deep, and just a matter of how much you trust your defense. But the Generals will stay out on the field. France looking down the sideline for Harper, and that pass incomplete. MacArthur may have wanted a flag there, but that ball was low. And the Lions will take over at the 43-yard line. We'll take a quick break for our sponsor this afternoon, Jody Brown State Farm in Peoria. I want to thank Jody for sponsoring tonight's broadcast, as well as many others in the central Illinois area. For all your insurance needs, auto, home, or life, give her a call at 309-693-1103 or visit her website there on the screen. Also, another word for our other sponsors, Zach Butler in Pekin and Jake Weston in Washington. Again, their phone numbers and websites there on the screen. Give them a call for anything insurance related. Just rolls out, pass incomplete and low. He was looking, believe it looked like, for Sean Franklin, his senior wide receiver.
Yeah, that one just off the mark. Got a reset here. But MacArthur's defense, they want to try to get another stop, get this ball back with just under 6 minutes to play.
2nd and 10 from the 43, and Peoria High probably didn't expect to be held to 8 points at this point of the game. MacArthur's defense really making it tough. Gist again rolls out and almost picked off by Millsap.
Almost had that one right in his hands.
That would have been Millsap's 4th of the year. And head coach Derek Space is animated. He wanted Millsap to bring that ball in and get the offense back out on the field. But the ball hawk for the Generals just can't come up with it. Bounced off his fingertips. The pass had some zip on it, though. Just rolling out, throws, and being pushed down was his receiver, TQ Webb. Although that ball was not catchable, so no flag there, and that will bring up a very quick 4th down for the Lions.
Got to think MacArthur would be happy with a quick 4 and out here against Peoria High's offense.
Interesting phrase there, Joko, a 4 and out. You don't really hear that too often, except when you're playing Peoria High.
Well, the thing with the postseason, anything can happen. So, Peoria High not used to scoring 8, but this is where the playoffs get exciting.
This one has been a dandy of a ball game on a great afternoon here in Peoria. Handoff goes to Washington, rather a fake, and Gist was looking for a herd. There's going to be a flag thrown on Azarian Richardson there. Pushed him down. A lot of Generals fans not happy about the call there. And that's big for Peoria on 4th down, and they will get new life breathed into them, and the drive will continue for the home team.
Peoria High another chance at it now, and costly penalty there, John, just after they thought they had him turned over.
That pass was out of the reach of Hearn. So physical play there on the football, a little bit too physical there, to the benefit of Peoria and the detriment of MacArthur. Generals have been able to respond, and Lions will take a timeout. They didn't have enough men on the field, it looked like. So Tim Thornton will burn his first timeout of the second half.
Comes out to the field to talk with his guys, get them regrouped. But John, for Peoria High offensively, 5 minutes and 8 seconds left. They can chew some clock up, try to get downfield. They'd like another score before going in halftime, but MacArthur's defense wanting to tune in here, try to get another big stop.
Certainly, and Joko, an interesting trend I saw for this MacArthur team. It's kind of been feast or famine for them. In their wins, they've had about 34 points per game, and in their losses, they've averaged just a hair over 8 points. So if their offense is rolling, usually that's a good sign for them. But you take their offense out of the game, and that's usually where the Generals have tended it to falter this year. So it's either been usually a big win or on the other side of the coin there for Decatur MacArthur this year.
Yeah, so in this type of game, try to rely on that defense. You got Peoria High where you want them.
1st and 10, give goes to Washington. He hurdles in the air. Looks like he got tripped up a bit there by Richardson, sent him flying. A big carry there for the senior back for Peoria, and there's a flag late, much after the play ended, and
going to come against the coach.
that might be against Derek Spates for MacArthur, and you see an assistant pushing him back there. He is livid on the sideline, and we saw a couple of these last night, Joko. Usually you got to watch your verbiage after the play, because we saw a couple of those frustration penalties for Plainfield Central.
I think it's just the emotion of the game, too. Nobody wants to go home. This is, one and done. These kids have worked so hard. The coach kind of lays it all on the line for his team, and those are things you want to try to avoid, though, as far as vocally.
Certainly, and it'll be at 1st and 10 just outside the 20-yard line. Carry goes to Washington. He has a hole. Malachi Washington sees the end zone for the second time today. Lions go ahead by 2 scores. And Malachi Washington, what can he not do? Scampers into the end zone from 22 yards out, and Peoria High takes a 14-0 lead.
And that offensive line just opened the door wide for Washington. He goes right up the middle, and you're not going to catch him once those afterburners come on.
Certainly not. Left side of the line for Peoria High has been opening up massive holes for Washington all game. And a 2-point conversion for Washington is good, so Malachi Washington responsible for all of Peoria's 16 points thus far. Gotta feel like that's a big score for Peoria. That gives him a little breathing room and maybe takes a little bit more pressure off.
Yeah, and it's been a trend with Washington. He's found the end zone so many times this year. Well over 2,000 yards. And, John, that's just a relief for Peoria High's offense. They can know that their line just has to block, and he'll get the ball and run.
Washington came into week 9 with 27 touchdowns. I wasn't able to find his stats from their week 9 win against Peoria Notre Dame, but going into that game against the Irish, Washington had 27 touchdowns on the year. Just a little bit more than 3 a game through 8 weeks, and I know he scored at least 1 against P&D, so that put him at 28, and that would, most recent one would put him at least 30 through 10 games of the season. We're not even through game number 10 either, as Peoria High looking to advance into the second round. Onside kick from the Lions, and it looks like they have it. MacArthur was not ready for it, and an easy recovery. And MacArthur,
that's big.
Not happy there. They didn't think the ball went 10 yards. Looked like it may have been the kicker Al Hassan who fell on it, Joko.
I think he did. He kicked it and then able to get the ball himself, and nobody from Decatur MacArthur really, ran around to get that.
It's kind of like in basketball where a free throw shooter misses his free throw and then gets his own rebound. It typically doesn't happen, but if you have enough awareness and are able to maybe take advantage of the defense being a step slow there, it can really pay off. So Peoria High, 1st and 10 from midfield. They have a chance to go up 3 scores. Will MacArthur be able to force a big stop? Yes, rolls out, looking for Hearn. No, he'll go for Webb on the other sideline, incomplete, and another flag flies. This will be pass interference on Richardson yet again. A physical game this has been in the secondary, John.
Yeah, it has, and Webb kind of got behind the defender, tried to go for it, but you got to be aware where you're at. These penalties are costly for MacArthur, putting Peoria High in good field position once again, and I think we know what could be coming on this drive, Malachi Washington.
Looked for the big throw there for TQ Webb, who has a big catch in this game that ended up not coming to fruition with any points. But Malachi Washington certainly can finish off the drives. And give to him here, and he's across the 30. A gain of about 6 there for Washington. And one thing I've noticed, John, is earlier in the game, Washington was getting chunks of maybe, 2 or 3, 4 yards, little gains. Now it seems like every time he's rushing the ball, he's getting at least 5 or 6. Maybe a result of a little bit of attrition from Decatur MacArthur. As Gitz throws it, and a nice catch made there on the sideline. Ricky Hearn falls out of bounds inside the 20, and that's what you expect from your Big 12 honorable mention receiver. Lions on the move.
That's a nice snag by Hearn, able to stay in bounds. Fall to his knees to get that one, and still 4 minutes left in the second quarter, but you'd like to think Peoria High scores again, maybe have a comfortable lead.
Washington finds another hole to the left side, and he's in the end zone again. 3 touchdowns from Malachi Washington, the hat trick. And Peoria High is starting to pull away. They now lead 22-0. And again, Malachi Washington responsible for all 22 of those Lions points.
I think we can ask the question, how do you stop them? Nobody's really had an answer.
It's almost impossible. I'm trying to think of a way, John, but again, I'm not a football coach, and if I was, I don't think I know how to stop Malachi Washington.
Not to mention 3 for 3 on 2-point conversions.
And those add up as well, John. Take away all 3 of those 2-point conversions. If they don't convert, this is an 18-0 ball game, but all 3 of them are good as Peoria High now leads 24-0, taking advantage of the onside kick recovery by their own kicker, Gideon El Hassan. They go 50 yards in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, you could say after a slower start, only held the 8 points, halfway into the second quarter. Now they're finding their footing. Now they're going back to Peoria High offensive football and really finding their rhythm. It's going to be tough for MacArthur to try to hold a stop there and score on offense, because right now Peoria High's defense pitching that shutout.
Their defense allows just over 17 points a game. First 3 games of the year, they allowed 16 points in all of them. And since then, they've hovered around that mark. They've pitched a couple shutouts, held P&D to 7. They shut out Bloomington. It's 3:51 to go here in quarter number 2. Onside kick again. MacArthur ready for it this time, and Richardson, or rather Owens, I believe, on the hands team makes the recovery, so MacArthur will take over. But the winner of this game will face the winner of the 6-11 matchup. That's Kankakee versus Mount Vernon, and John, Kankakee, one of the stronger teams in the entire state. Very, very loaded with talent and speed. What a matchup it would be. I mean, if Kankakee wins, I feel like they'd match up well with both of these squads here today.
Yeah, Kankakee, same type of team, likes to run the ball. They get out and throw. State runner-up last year in Class 5A, so they have the experience. They want to try to get back to another title.
I know the K's had a couple Division I recruits last year. Same case this year, as a beauty of a throw from France is caught by Sam Owens down near the 30-yard line. France has thrown a couple of beautiful balls his direction. And the Generals are on the move.
It's a great catch there. Now MacArthur, a little bit of momentum on offense after that play. They got time to try to get down there and score.
Millsap in the backfield for MacArthur, but they've been going to the air most of this afternoon. 1st and 10 from the 32. Jamore Singleton in motion. And France looking, scrambling, looking left. Moves over, ran east and west. Didn't get upfield, and Peoria High makes a big play in the backfield. Gary Rutherford, the linebacker, making the stop, along with a couple other Lions.
They read that on defense, able to get to the quarterback, France, in a hurry and take him down. But this Peoria High defense, they have been solid. Up front in the secondary, MacArthur's had some good drives, but they're just not finding their way in.
Peoria's defense has played extremely well on their own side of the field. France looking to throw again for Richardson, another acrobatic catch. That was made down to the 20, so that should be a first down for MacArthur, and indeed the chains will move. How about these acrobatic catches for MacArthur? They've been throwing, France has been throwing it up in the air, and Richardson and Owens have been going up to get it every single time.
Yeah, able to just use their height, jump up, catch the ball, come down with it. And they're spacing themselves well against the secondary, using that speed and quick juke step to find some openings. But France, credit to him, he's putting the ball right on the money for his receivers.
France showing no trepidation of the Peoria High secondary with Eli McFadden and Kenny Rutherford, two intimidating presences. France throws into traffic there, and that may have been the most dangerous throw of the ball game so far. Falls incomplete into double coverage.
Well defended there. Almost could have got away with pass interference, but able to keep his hands tight.
This has been a physical game in the secondary. Lots of PI calls on both sides of the ball.
As you'd expect, both teams want to come out and win in the postseason, but defense has been physical for sure.
MacArthur defensive line, if you're just tuning in, played stellar in the first quarter, stopping Malachi Washington and the Lions for a couple drives and forced a few turnovers on downs. It's been a little bit easier for the Lions in the second quarter, but MacArthur's still hanging in there. France looking for his guy Harper, and that bounced off his hands, but there's a flag, and this may be a pass interference call again. Lost track of how many that there have been in this game.
Yeah, that one's really going to help MacArthur out. That would have made it third down. That's coming out on the Lions here. MacArthur caught a huge break.
MacArthur has taken advantage of a couple Peoria High penalties. Again, there was a flag, I believe it was on Gary Rutherford back on the last drive. Late hit out of bounds. A couple of pass interference calls, I think, on Eli McFadden. And MacArthur will be knocking on the door again down at around the 10-yard line. So another sterling opportunity for the Generals with just over 2 minutes to go here before half. France with four wide receivers, Owens and Harper to the near side. He will go to Harper on the right side, and he is in the end zone. MacArthur breaks the seal, and they are on the board. Cam France to Jatavian Harper, a quick hitter to the outside, and the Generals are back in this game.
What a catch there from Harper. He had a defender on him, able to pull it in and kind of crawl his way to the end zone, but that's got to feel good to get that touchdown out of the way in the first half.
Harper's second touchdown of the year. That's a big one for the Generals. Looking for a big win on the road and to keep their season alive. Cameron France, his fourth touchdown pass of the year, as they will go for two. Millsap in the backfield. And a pitch pass out to Richardson, and he has the speed to get to the end, and he does. Successful two-point conversion. Richardson dives across, and MacArthur is back within two scores. That was a necessary response heading into halftime.
Yeah, and still 2 minutes left in this game. MacArthur could try to get another stop on Peoria High, maybe get one more chance back at it, but all just comes down to making that stop first and containing Malachi Washington. This is still a lot of time for the Lions offense.
Good drive for MacArthur, who was able to recover the onside kick for Peoria. They take it about a little more than 50 yards or so for the score with just over 2 minutes to go before the half. It is a great day here at Peoria Stadium. 63 degrees was the kickoff temperature. very calm winds. Haven't really felt hardly any at all. 3 miles an hour out of the west for those that are curious. But for Peoria High, they're probably pretty glad that the weather isn't impeding them too much, because we saw that happen in week 8 and their only loss of the season to Normal West.
Yeah, downpour of rain that Friday night. Very cold, below 40 degrees in Peoria High's offense. A lot of turnovers, but I think they learned a lot from that loss. Normal West came out as the Big 12 champions, and they've only gotten better. Win over Notre Dame, looking good in this first half of the playoffs. So sometimes you take those losses, you learn from them, you figure out what you did wrong, and go forward.
Normal West was very impressive in that game, a 30-6 victory over the Lions. They'll be facing Danville in the first round. His high kick brought in by the Lions at about the 30-yard line or so. That was Phil Ellis making the catch for Peoria. But we'll go through some scores at halftime. We'll definitely have an eye on that Normal West and Danville game, with certainly lots of Big 12 ties in that one. Not often you see your conference foe in the first round of the playoffs.
No, you don't. It's one thing, you run into a conference team and you've seen them throughout the year, so it can make it challenging because both teams want to go out there and win and advance. But, yeah, got to keep an eye on that game in the Big 12.
Normal West, the Big 12 champions, with wins over Peoria High and Centennial. A screen thrown to the outside, and there is a whole host of Generals ready to push the Lions receiver backwards. That may have been Hearn, or rather that was that was actually TQ Webb, rather, on the reception. Under 2 minutes to go here, but that's still plenty of time for this Peoria High offense that plays at breakneck speed.
Yes, they do. And Webb's had some nice receptions today, alongside Washington running the ball.
Yes, we'll look in Webb's direction again, and he just can't quite catch up to a throw there from his junior quarterback, so that'll bring up a 3rd and 7.
Got a flag on the field as well. Let's see what this one is.
That one landed at about the 47-yard line, about 12 yards ahead of where the ball was snapped. We'll await the call from our referees. Still no official signal yet. There's been a fair share of laundry in this first round contest here in Class 5A. And here's the call. It will be, it looks like, holding on Decatur MacArthur. So that'll make things a little bit easier for the Lions. We'll snap this ball from the 45.
Still enough time to work with if you're Peoria High. See if they put that ball in Washington's hands again.
Another flag flies before Washington can reach the line of scrimmage.
And before that flag came out, he had a space right up the middle there.
He had a burst of speed, too. He was ready to take that one to the house. That would have been his 4th touchdown of the game if he was able to find a hole and break that one free. Again, Malachi Washington, all 3 touchdowns, all 3 2-point conversions for Peoria High so far. You thought maybe going into this game, John, that the playoffs coming around, obviously you have a whole season's worth of film to watch for the other team, and you would think that, maybe MacArthur may expect a bunch of Malachi Washington. You would go to maybe someone like Ricky Hearn or do something else, but they've just been going right up the gut with Washington for a good amount, and it's been working.
Yeah, and it's different to see on film than to actually play it in real time, because Washington, as we said, his speed and strength at 5'10", 205, so tough to bring down.
Washington's just a player that you got to see in person. So if you haven't yet, certainly try and come out to a Peoria High game as long as they advance. Again, still work to do. This game not over yet. Decatur MacArthur holding very strong here in half number 1. And they just got a touchdown catch from Jatavian Harper to make this a 2-possession game. 1st and 5 after the flags from midfield. Minute 21 left. Gist in the shotgun. Rolls out to his left. He's looking for Webb on the post route. He has him. TQ Webb running near the end zone. Man to beat, and he's brought down inside the 5. TQ Webb. Remember the name. Another big play for the sophomore wide receiver.
It's a nice stop by MacArthur. Just caught up to him, but how about that run from Webb? Just short of getting in there. This opens the door for their back Washington, maybe getting another touchdown.
Give does go to Washington, and he bounces to the outside, and another touchdown. Malachi Washington. You predicted it, John. That's Malachi Washington territory near the goal line, and he punches it in for touchdown number 4 on the afternoon as Peoria High now leads 30-8.
It's hard to say if he's having a record day this season because he's had so many big games, 5 or 6 touchdowns in certain games in the regular season, but he's definitely making his mark here in the first half.
Most running backs are pretty happy with a 100-yard game. Malachi Washington likely only satisfied if he gets to 200. He's had a ton of 200-yard games, a couple 250-yard games. I think he even had a 300-yard game in there. Again, over 2,000 rushing yards now on the season, and he has been a force for this Peoria High offense as they retake a 24-point lead over the visiting Decatur MacArthur Generals. We'll take a quick break. Word from our sponsor, Jody Brown State Farm here in Peoria. For all your insurance needs, give Jody a call at 693-1103 or at jodybrownagency.com. And again, for our other great sponsors in the area, our State Farm agents, Zach Butler in Pekin, Jake Weston in Washington. Give Zach a ring at 309-347-3115. Or if you're near Washington, call up Jake from State Farm at 309-444-4441 or visit either of their websites. I want to thank our State Farm agents for sponsoring this afternoon's broadcast here at Peoria Stadium. (32-8), Peoria High leads. An onside kick and a big hit being laid. Oh, and there's some shoving going on between Ron Tavis Lee and the general. Physical play there on the football. A Lion bowled right into a general at midfield. I don't know who got that ball, Joko. I think the generals hung on to it.
Yeah, I think they did. And just after the fact, a little bit of commotion there between both players. It's just heat of the game. Just got to limit some of those penalties.
Certainly any physical play that there's been some jawing, maybe some hands, maybe not being thrown, but some pushing and shoving. Two teams that really want to win and keep their state title hopes alive. Peoria High, hailed by many as a state title contender in Class 5A. This is one of the best seasons that they've had, and they're looking, John, to go past the second round in Class 5A for the first time since they won a state title in 2016. So given all the success that the Lions have had, it's almost surprising that they haven't gotten that far since 2016. But again, 5A, a very tough class. You saw them lose to Morgan Park in the first round in a Clutch Sports Media Classic last year. But certainly room to think that Peoria High can make it deep this year.
Yeah, might not have gotten there in a couple years, but what Tim Thornton's done with this program, there's continuous success each season. If you're not getting deep in the playoffs, you're still winning conference or getting close to it, and it's been really exciting for his program.
They reload almost every year as France throws out to Richardson, and he'll be thrown down by Gary Rutherford. Kind of just loaded him up and kind of almost pile drived him.
Wrestling move there.
I was going to say, another very physical play there as Rutherford wrestles down Richardson. As time ticking away here in quarter number 2. MacArthur looking for a response to the touchdown from Malachi Washington. They got on the board with a touchdown to Jatavian Harper, looking for a second score. They have another timeout. Slant route caught there by Jamor Singleton, and they are whistled that pass incomplete. I'm sure they won't mind that, John, as that would stop the clock. And again, you have to think that they probably would have maybe would have burned their last time out if that pass would have been complete across the middle of the field.
Yeah, now you get another shot at it. But not a whole lot of time to work with. And I'm sure getting a touchdown would be their best case scenario. But Peoria High, pretty good lead here.
Certainly, and the Lions lead by 24 here as France from the 25. Scrambling out, he has room to run inside the 15. France tries to make a man miss, but he is ultimately decked at the 15. The flag, or not a flag rather, but rather a timeout from MacArthur with 9 seconds left. But a nice job of improvising there from Cam France, who was described by his head coach Derek Spates as a very savvy, and he can make plays. And certainly that exemplified that right there, making it happen with his legs.
And he turned on the speed there, able to pick up those extra yards. Good field position at the 25 for MacArthur. 9 seconds, potential chance to run 2 plays if you run them the right way, but I'm sure they like to get in there on 1.
Certainly, and you gotta think that MacArthur will be passing here on both of these plays. Certainly hoping that they'll have 2. And you gotta think that if you're Peoria High, they're gonna go the way of Azarian Richardson or Sam Owens. However, they also have Jatavian Harper and Jamore Singleton as well. So all 4 members of their secondary on Peoria High will have to pay close attention. Lots of weapons for MacArthur, lots of weapons for Peoria High in their secondary. 2 teams that really, on paper, match up really well.
Yeah, they do. And, so far it's just Peoria High's had the advantage with Malachi Washington, but MacArthur's still battling on offense. Maybe a touchdown here would really help them.
And maybe you start to think, Joko, if MacArthur was able to run the ball a bit more and maybe have a good 50-50 mix between run and pass or somewhere close to that mark, maybe it'll keep the Lions a little bit more off balance, but they've been looking to pass for most of the game. Again, MacArthur running back MJ Murphy went down with an injury in week 7. Hasn't seen the field since, and I do not recall seeing him out here in this game as Peoria High takes a timeout after seeing what MacArthur came out with.
Anytime there's injuries or the lineup shifts, there's adjustments you need to make when they happen that late in the season in week 7, 2 weeks before the postseason. It's the next man up mentality, and that's what MacArthur's looking at right now, especially with their quarterback.
Certainly, and this MacArthur team, John, and I can't say that, going in a couple days ago, I couldn't say I knew much about them, but after doing a lot of research and talking with their head coach and watching them here today, really, there's not a lot of, players with defined positions. There's just a lot of playmakers that can thrive in any role at running back or wide receiver. You can throw any of these wide receivers in the backfield, and they can probably get it done as well. We've seen a couple screen passes and everything. Also the same on the defensive end. So the Generals, lots of talent and lots of speed and athleticism on their side. 3rd and 1 from the 16. Although that doesn't quite matter too much with 9 seconds left. Fred's looking to pass this, almost picked off. That was number 16 for Peoria, Romy Walker. The first time we've called his name, the 5'5" senior. A little bit undersized at defensive back, but almost came away with a big pick there.
Yeah, that would have been huge for the Lions.
And MacArthur, they'll live to see another down. Now, they're probably hoping that this will be the last play of the first half. Peoria High would maybe have the chance to run the ball if they weren't able to convert this, but 16 yards to go for the Generals. Looking to make this a 2-score ball game before the half. 4 wide receivers for France, the quarterback. Rolls out, in trouble, and he's got his man, and is intercepted. That's Kenny Rutherford. He is down the sideline, and he is wide open. Green grass right in front of Kenny Rutherford, and how about that? A potential 12-point swing as Kenny Rutherford makes the house call. Peoria High leads 38-8 before the half.
And what a way to turn it around for Peoria High. They want to just come out there and make a stop. They said, we'll just take it to the house instead, and that really puts a damper on it for the Generals.
Kenny Rutherford, the second team all-conference senior, a huge play, and that just is a dagger to MacArthur. At least as far as the first half goes, that is not the way you wanted to end, especially on the road against a Peoria High team that can make you pay in so many ways. They had to execute. We knew that they had to do that today, and they've done it a bit, but that pick six will certainly not help. Malachi Washington bowls it in for the two-point conversion, and Peoria High will take a 40-8 lead into halftime here at Peoria Stadium after the pick six from Kenny Rutherford, 4 touchdowns from Malachi Washington, and 4 two-point conversions to go with it. John, your thoughts from the first half?
Yeah, I mean, Peoria High came out. Defense was looking really solid, only holding Decatur MacArthur to 8 points. And how about offense? Malachi Washington and a huge turnaround to close out the second quarter there with that interception from Rutherford, not to mention TQ Webb with some great receptions. It has been an all-around great game for the Lions, exactly what they would want coming into the first round of the playoffs.
MacArthur has shown good flashes in the first half, but Peoria High can score in a flash and make you pay for your mistakes, and that's why this game is 40-8, probably a little bit further apart than you would expect given how close that these teams were for most of the first quarter. Peoria High led 8-0 after 12 minutes of play, 32 points in quarter number 2. We will take a reminder that today's broadcast is brought to you by Jody Brown State Farm here in Peoria. For all your insurance needs, auto, home, or life, give Jody a call at 309-693-1103 or visit jodybrownagency.com. And also for our other sponsors as well, Jake Weston in Pekin and Jake Weston over in Washington. I believe that's Zach Butler in Pekin. Jake Weston in Washington. Apologies for the mix-up, but regardless, their phone numbers and websites are there on the screen. Give them a call for all your insurance needs. I want to give a big shout out to Zach Butler and Jake Weston for sponsoring this afternoon's broadcast. We will take a quick break here at halftime, come back with some scores from around the state, analysis of the first half, and we'll preview the second half here at Peoria Stadium. But for now, Lions take a 40-8 lead into halftime. Don't go anywhere. Maybe refresh your browser, grab a quick snack, a quick drink, and come back for the second half. Clutch Sports Media, we're not going anywhere. We'll be right back for the second half in just a bit. Welcome back to Peoria Stadium here in Peoria, Illinois. We're about to get ready for the second half here between the Peoria High Lions and the Decatur MacArthur Generals. Wanted to run by a quick score updates that we found from around the state, John. You were asking about Danville and Normal West. The Wildcats lead at 14-0 in quarter number 2. Metamora hosting Jacksonville in a thrilling 8-9 matchup. They lead at 16-8. And also Champaign Centennial. They started the year 7-0, had 2 tough opponents in weeks 8 and 9, fell to Normal West and Peoria, Normal West and Believe Community. But they are down 33-6 against Crete-Monee. So the Chargers are in big trouble. Hoping to keep their season alive, they will need lots of scoring to do that and move on into the second round. And Peoria High showing why they want to move on into round number 2. A 40-8 lead, Kenny Rutherford. Their defensive back with a pick 6, 97 yards right before the half. A 12-point swing. That was huge for the Lions. And John, if you're MacArthur, what do you think they talked about during halftime? And then also, how do you come out again and kind of reestablish momentum here in half number 2?
Yeah, I think, at halftime, trying to clean up some of those mistakes and, most importantly, defense. You got to get those stops. They've had some good offensive plays, but they just haven't put all the pieces together yet. But it's got to start up front. You got to make some stops on defense and then try to get into that end zone. Because right now, John, this game is all Peoria High.
And MacArthur has had a couple chances. Peoria's defense has played pretty well, as has MacArthur's in the first quarter. And Peoria High started to break through a lot more in quarter number 2, 32 points. And that's kind of what they did against Manual, John. I was here for them back in week 4, Saturday afternoon game. And after a quarter, it was pretty close. It took a quarter for the Lions to get rolling, but in quarter number 2, that's where they did their damage. I believe they scored at least 4 or 5 touchdowns. So, again, if you blink, think that you're in this game, you got to stay right there with Peoria. Otherwise, you're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah, they can kind of flip the switch whenever they want to. And this game started out a little slow, had just a touchdown lead, and just like that, we're at 40-8.
Direct snap to Cam France, their General's quarterback. He runs for a short game, about back to the line of scrimmage. Defensive line making the stop there for Peoria High. Landon Newby-Holsum has had a great game up the middle. It'll be 2nd and 9 as the ball will officially be spotted at midfield. You see there just the nose of it grazing the chalk at the 50.
I think it's just going to take a really solid offensive drive for MacArthur to try to chip away at this deficit.
For MacArthur, they need a big play, something that will change momentum, and this is one right here. Jatavian Harper, a big catch along the sidelines, and that's where France has been throwing a lot of his balls. He's been looking for the sideline a lot. That's where Harper caught his touchdown back in the first half, and he does so again there. Pickup of about 20 or so down to the Peoria High 30-yard line.
And MacArthur's receivers doing a great job of hauling those in, able to keep his feet in bounds. Almost broke off 2 tackles there, and that's credit to quarterback Cameron France, just leaving those up for his guys to go get.
France came into this game 23 for 53, 387 passing yards on the season. Again, stepping in after the injury of starting quarterback Brylan Hood McJones. He's done well, led them to a victory in week 8 against Normal University. Rolls out to the right here, runs out of bounds. Gary Rutherford there pushing him out of bounds with his hands up, saying, hey, I'm not going to push him down. I'm not going to take a late hit. Just like he had a penalty for that in the first half. Committed to not doing that again after the short run there from France.
Yeah, both teams looking to clean up some of those penalties in the second half. And like you said, John, Peoria High wasn't going to let that one cost them.
Flags have been a big part of this game, John. We've seen lots of pass interference calls. MacArthur at one point in the first half had 3 flags in a row. Backed them up to a 1st and 25 before they got a huge catch down the sideline, and they were able to bounce back from, but ultimately did not score against this Peoria High defense. They've been very good inside their own territory as Richardson, the ball carrier, goes inside the 20 down to about the maybe the 17 or 18 yard line, very closer to the 20. Looking from this angle, but it still will be a first down. So MacArthur moving the ball methodically. Certainly you want to do that, but they're looking for a big play.
And we haven't seen a whole lot of the run game, and right there it pays off with Richardson. Maybe they go back to that a little more, try to find something that's working. I think Peoria High knows they're going to go to the air 90% of the time. Roderick
Millsap, the senior in MacArthur's backfield, hasn't gotten much work. Fred's looking for Harper along the side. And did he catch it? He may have.
He's down.
And Harper is down. Did he catch the football? Did not see a touchdown call.
Hard from this angle with his back turn, and they didn't signal yet. But
it looks like Harper had the ball. Looks like he scored. He is up and walking away, so good news for MacArthur. And it is a touchdown. How about the catch from Jatavian Harper? Takes a hit and hangs on to the ball. And Decatur MacArthur comes right out of the gates in 2.5 minutes to score a touchdown on their opening drive. That is exactly what you want. And they're not going down without a fight, John.
They're not. And just hope Harper's okay, kind of limping off to the sidelines. That's one of their key players they want to have back out there. But right now, that's a big start to open this third quarter for MacArthur finding the end zone.
Jatavian Harper, 2 touchdown catches for Decatur MacArthur. Only 3 players have scored a touchdown in this game. Malachi Washington, Jatavian Harper, and Kenny Rutherford. 2-point conversion coming for the Generals. They were successful on their first attempt. Richardson is in motion, pitched to him, and he's wrapped up in the backfield. Looked like that was Tawan Smith, the linebacker, bringing him down, and he stayed home and was ready for the trickery. So just 6 this time for MacArthur. They draw a little bit closer and don't take too much time off the clock either.
No, they don't. And, still 9 minutes, 36 seconds left, but you got to feel like MacArthur picked up some confidence there, able to find the end zone. They're probably thinking to themselves, hey, we make some stops. You're never out of a game till it's over.
Certainly, and really it's the one keeping them in this game has, been their defense for a little bit. You made some big stops in the first quarter, but how about Cam France? Again, he wasn't even their starter in week 1, but now he is playing in the first round of the 5A state playoffs, keeping his team afloat. They're passing almost every down, MacArthur is, and France has thrown some great balls. Aside from maybe the pick 6 to Rutherford into double coverage, which, again, definitely come back to hurt them, but for most of this game, France has been really, really good for this MacArthur team. 2 touchdowns and a pick. Don't have the exact stats, but probably has at least over 100, probably working towards 200 passing yards on the afternoon.
And he's had so many different targets to throw to, in Richardson, Owens, and also Harper, who just had that touchdown.
MacArthur will try onside kick, and that one is illegally touched early, so flag will fly there. And that was Taquan Millsap, who was a little bit too eager to get that ball. But certainly got to respect MacArthur for, trying to give Peoria High a taste of their own medicine, going for the onside kick right after the score, and why not? You're down 26, still a little bit of work to do, but they're certainly not completely gone yet.
Well, John, that's back to your point earlier. They were passing the ball a lot, not quite 50-50 with Peoria High. Well, now they did run the ball on that last possession. They throw it in the air, get the touchdown. Now they try the onside, trying to channel some Peoria High-like offense there.
Maybe trying to copy them a little bit. Obviously, the recipe for success for Peoria High has worked on their way to an 8-1 season, as MacArthur and Coach Spates will take a timeout. We'll take a quick timeout to remind you that today's broadcast is brought to you by our great sponsor, Jody Brown at State Farm in Peoria. Give Jody a call at 309-693-1103 or at jodybrown.agency.com. Also take another quick word for other great sponsors, Zach Butler in Pekin and Jake Weston in Washington. Got their names right this time. Give Zach a call at 309-347-3115 or sfbutler.com. Jake Weston, this one's pretty easy to remember, 309-444-4441 or visit jakewestoninsurance.com. Want to thank all of our great sponsors from State Farm for their support of high school athletics, not just today, but all season long. As the Lions come out of the timeout, ready to roll. We'll have the ball in MacArthur territory, the 48-yard line to be exact. Malachi Washington has been busy. Play action goes to him. Gets with a good throw to Ricky Hearn, who jukes around a man and makes a miss. Ricky Hearn is just playing video games out here. How about the moves from the senior wide receiver? And one play, that's all you need, but there is a flag down, so hold the celebration for Peoria. We don't know what will become of this yet.
If that does come back, still an unbelievable effort there from Hearn. We'll see if it stands.
That'll be an illegal man downfield for Peoria High, so wipe the touchdown off the board, but I mean, that catch there and those moves after the catch from Ricky Hearn, for most fans, I gotta feel like that was worth the price of admission itself. I mean, how about he wriggled his way out of what seemed like at least three defenders.
Yeah, it was incredible, and right after the fact, able to turn on the Jets and find the end zone, but MacArthur catches a break there on Peoria High's mistake. See if the Lions have another crack at it.
Ricky Hearn maybe channeling his inner Malachi Washington, a great blend of speed and finesse. As handoff goes to Washington up the middle, he is down across the 40, a full head of steam. So hard to stop him. Malachi Washington runs angry, and he picks up a big first down there, or rather very close to it after the penalty. That'll make it second and very short. Gets the snap. Quick throw out to the outside, and that's Sean Franklin, who appeared to have brought it in but could not hold on to it. So that will bring up a 3rd and inches for the Lions.
Right idea there from Franklin. Turns around quick to catch it, and nice throw on the money.
Franklin, one of 2 receivers for the Lions at 6'2". Hearn being the other. Washington has a big hole. He's going down the far sideline. Malachi Washington, how about number 5?
Unbelievable.
Malachi Washington, that's just what he's done all year long. This is not uncommon. Malachi Washington goes to the house. Started going up the middle and slithered over to the sideline, and then used his breakaway speed as Peoria High and Malachi Washington lead 46-14. That offense is impossible to stop with him in the backfield. Handoff goes to Washington on the 2-point conversion, close to the end zone, and he is in. So not only does Washington have 5 touchdowns, he has 5 2-point conversions, and there's a late flag here. Looked like a Peoria High player got pushed over in the end zone. That looked like Sean Franklin. And possibly a frustration penalty there from MacArthur as they now trail 48-14. Every time the Generals have scored, Peoria High has came right back. It looks like there may be an injured Lion there on the play.
Yeah, not sure who was down. Coach Thornton out there checking on his player, as well as a trainer.
It's really not what you want to see, especially after the touchdown. It'll damper the celebration a bit. Again, try to see who the injured Lion is. And up to his feet.
Yeah, that might be Malachi.
That may be Washington.
That is.
What a blow that would be if Washington is not feeling 100% healthy. Washington walking off the field with a little help from his teammates, but very gingerly. And John, that could end up being a massive storyline. Again, Washington got up to his feet, so he looks to be all right. But again, that's not what you want to see. You're starting running back walking gingerly off the field.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that you kind of nurse this. You know, we don't know the injury type yet, but I would rest him. You're at a very comfortable spot in this game, and give a backup some reps at it. I don't think there's any reason for him to come back into the game today after limping off.
Malachi Washington, after 5 touchdowns and just with a 2-point conversion, exits the field. It apparently looks like it may have been a leg injury. We certainly wish the best for Malachi. I hope he's all right again. He was able to get up all right, but then again, if Malachi Washington's injured, the world kind of seems to stop for Peoria High. But they have playmakers. Frank Odom, I saw week 4 against Manual, their running back. That maybe spells Washington here or there as very skilled as well. He can certainly get it done, and we might see a little bit of him with Peoria High nursing the big lead. Normal kickoff for Peoria High, and MacArthur called a fair catch. And it looked like he changed his mind after he caught it. Had some room to run, but the Generals will start this drive at their own 10-yard line. And a little bit more about Decatur, a town that we don't see many teams from during the year, especially at Clutch Sports Media. A little bit of history of football in Decatur. The Staleys were a team in the NFL in 1919 and 1920 before a guy by the name of George Hallis. May sound familiar. Moved the team to Chicago where they became the Bears. So, and the Staleys were very good in their limited years down there, but the Bears, one of the longest standing franchises in the NFL, got their start, and you guessed it, Decatur, Illinois. And MacArthur, they have some history as well, 11 playoff berths since 2008. So a team that is very accustomed to success. And Derek Spates has this team in contention nearly every year.
Yeah, he does, and once again back in the postseason, just a tough draw with Peoria High to start the opening round.
It certainly is a tough draw, especially when you go 5-4 in a tough conference against playing the likes of Rochester, Jacksonville, Sacred Heart Griffin, a couple other good schools as well. Again, MacArthur just squeaked by Springfield back in week 6, and John, that was the game that really just kind of established the fact that MacArthur can, hang with anybody and that they can be a playoff team, because they were down by 12 points and came back. Obviously, a lot bigger of a deficit here today, but this is a team that doesn't give up. They're very gritty. They want to win, and they play well in big games. It's France, a big completion across the middle, and looks like that was Roderick Millsap there. They get him involved, the running back, and he's across the 30 for a big gain of over 20 yards.
Yeah, and he's been throwing the ball really well today in France, able to find his man across the middle open once again, and they got to keep chipping away. Again,
the offense really hasn't been much of a problem for MacArthur so far this afternoon. They've sustained a lot of long drives, and then they've either ended in touchdowns or turnovers on downs deep in Peoria territory. They march forward from the 30. France looking for his guy Owens, and he turns around and catches it at the 48. Another late flag flies in. Not sure what this could be, Joko. I didn't really see, at least near the ball, where you could have thrown a flag there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It wasn't pass interference, and I'm not sure if it was.
Pass interference on the offense.
Yeah.
So that will negate the completion to Sam Owens.
I think that's the first time we've seen that all game.
It is the first OPI that we have seen. Lots of defensive pass interference, but that's the first time where the offense has been the guilty party. So that will back them up 10 yards, I believe, to the 20. So 1st and 20 for MacArthur. And Joko, you said it coming out of the half. MacArthur can't afford any flags in the second half because that's what kind of killed him a little bit in half number 1.
Yeah, right here, this one's going to hurt. Pushes them way back there, deep in their own territory.
15-yard penalty makes it 1st and 25 on their own 15. Big setback for MacArthur. How will they rebound? France out of the pocket, just throws it away to one of the assistant coaches who almost made a one-handed grab. Would have been pretty nice. That will bring up 2nd and very long.
You have to assume they probably stayed in the air, tried to get something downfield like they did on that first pass that picked up the first down. Unfortunately, the other one came back with an OPI.
Certainly, maybe one thing I'd call here, maybe again, I'm not a head football coach for reasons, but maybe what you do is you send all the receivers deep on go routes straight on the field and see if Cam France can do a quarterback draw, make something happen with his legs. He's been the main catalyst in rushing the ball for the Generals, and he throws down the field and that is picked off. And 2nd interception of the game for the Peoria High defense. That was Eli McFadden, the shutdown corner, and he just put his receiver on McFadden Island. He guards the number 1 receiver each week, and he comes away with a big pick there. And MacArthur, with every drive, it feels like they need to score more and more, and they don't come away with points, and they give the ball back to Peoria in MacArthur territory.
Well, you know, one thing, either a pass or QB draw, one thing you don't want to see is an interception, which is the result in Peoria High with that new running back out there.
Looks like it may be Odom in the backfield for Peoria High after Malachi Washington limped off the field after scoring his 2-point conversion earlier. Flag is down on the rush.
Carried by number 22, Frank Odom. Flag on the play.
And for Frank Odom, John, again, a guy that doesn't see a lot of action because Malachi Washington is a bell cow of a running back. He usually gets at least 20, 30, sometimes even 40 yards per carry, but we're talking to Tim Thornton, Peoria High's head coach, earlier in the week at the In the Clutch live podcast show, and he does something that what he says Pat Ryan did at Metamora. He brings up the freshmen and some underclassmen and brings them onto the team, the varsity squad, for the playoff games to give them some much-needed experience so that they're ready for when their moment is. And for Malachi Washington as a senior, you know, you got to think that Frank Odom could be a guy that could really just break out and prove his worth. Odom is also a senior as well, but still gets a chance to, shine in the playoffs here.
Yeah, and almost matches, the body type of Washington, 5'9", 184 pounds. So he's got that speed. He's also very physical and strong. You see it right there.
See it right there. He bounced off of a tackle from Roderick Millsap. And it looks like Millsap may be down. But how about a run there from Frank Odom? Yeah, if you're a Peoria fan, lots to look forward to. Obviously, you don't want Malachi Washington out. But Frank Odom is right there with Washington. And he can certainly get the job done. Lots of speed in Odom's legs as well, as Millsap is being tended to stretch out his leg. Maybe a cramp, but And again, Odom bounced right off of him. Very tough runner, just as you mentioned, John.
Yeah, and you got to feel good. You know, not that Malachi Washington's on the bench, but with putting in a substitute and your backup running back in Odom and picking up big runs like that's got to definitely add some energy to the sidelines. A guy that typically doesn't touch the ball as much, and they're picking up some big chunk yardage.
And Joko, you look at Peoria High's roster, you look at it up and down, and not a lot of their players play two ways. You have Frank Odom, he's listed as a running back and linebacker. Chris Walker, who's listed at wide receiver and defensive back. Landon Newby-Holsum, obviously, as we mentioned earlier in the show, plays fullback and defensive line, and a couple others as well. Elijah Love, a two-way lineman, but a lot of these guys, John, really only play one position. So you look at the running backs for Peoria High, and they only have a few. There's Washington and Odom, and behind that, really not a lot else. There's Malik Ross listed as a running back, and obviously Newby-Holsum as a fullback, Isaac Williams as a fullback, but really not a lot of guys listed at running back. Showed you how much confidence they had in Malachi Washington to eat up so many carries this year, as Roderick Millsap is helped off the field for MacArthur.
And now Peoria High, a chance to continue to run that clock down in this third quarter. See if they keep it on the ground with Odom. I think it's one of those games where you have a comfortable lead, you just continue with the ground game.
Certainly, and obviously Odom hungry for carries. We'll see if Tim Thornton and the Peoria High Lions will feed him. 1st and 10 from the 24-yard line. Gist rolls out, looking for the end zone. He's got TQ Webb, and it's a touchdown. TD for TQ. As Peoria High puts another one on the board on a great spiral from Tino Gist to TQ Webb. And Peoria High leads 54-14. John, we mentioned how they scored 66 points on 2 occasions earlier in the year, and they're looking like they can reach that number, if not more, if they continue this type of pace on offense.
Yeah, you know, this is something that hasn't been uncommon for Peoria High the last few seasons. You know, back during their state title run when they won a championship, they put up 96 points in a playoff game. They scored close to 80, 70, 60. They've hit just about every high number outside of triple digits. But Peoria High well on their way today and a chance to surpass the 50 mark.
Certainly a 2-point conversion pass to Sean Franklin goes incomplete. So the first unsuccessful 2-point try for Peoria High, but they still hold a 40-point lead. And Joko, you mentioned high-scoring games in the playoffs. That reminded me of a game last year. I believe it was in Class 6A against a team from the same conference as MacArthur. Rock Island and Springfield. Do you remember that game last year? The Rocks won it, I believe, 94-72.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta think
a lot of yards.
A lot of yards, and that was probably one of the longest football games ever played, I bet.
Oh, definitely. And you look at that box score, it probably would jump out at you as far as passing and running yards. And you know, there's been some high-scoring games in IHSA history, and Peoria High's cemented their name up there in the top 5. But I think today they want to continue to keep scoring to get that confidence going into week 2.
And why not? In a year where you're gearing up for a state playoff run, I'm sure you asked head coach Tim Thornton, he said, like, you know, obviously you would likely say they're looking forward week to week, but these players have got to know that they're a part of a very special team with state title aspirations. And that will obviously help as the kickoff muffed. It goes out of bounds, so.
Peoria High almost got to that one, too.
Yeah, Peoria High almost did get to that. They would have had the ball inside MacArthur's 30-yard line. The Generals will stay with the ball, though. MacArthur this year, the last couple of weeks, they've alternated wins with wins and losses. And the even number of weeks have been good to them. They won in weeks 4, 6, and 8 against Eisenhower, Springfield, and Normal University in that order. Last week they lost to Rochester 49-0. The Rockets, though, a very good team every year. But Sacred Heart Griffin was the one taking home the Central State 8 title this year. And boy, would they be a force in Class 4A. A lot of people have the Cyclones going deep in the playoffs.
It's a common trend between Rochester and SHG, the father-son on opposite side coaching. Ken Leonard's last year there with SHG, and they are looking every bit of a state championship contender.
The Leonard Bowl always exciting, as is this play. A big tackle in the backfield. Eli McFadden again making the stop. McFadden and Rutherford really have just been locked down the entire game, playing at a very high level. McFadden with a couple tackles and Rutherford with a pick 6.
And we've talked so much about this offense because 54 points in this game and what Malachi Washington's done, but the defense has been a focal point today. It's really stymieing this offense.
Linebackers for Peoria High have also played very well. In addition, France lobs it up in the air. A high arcing throw goes incomplete. Looking for Jatavian Harper. It's good to see him back in the game after being shaken up on his last time out, where he caught a touchdown pass from Cam France. But Tawan Smith and Gary Rutherford making plays at linebacker. Rontavis Lee has been in there a lot as well. And Landon Newby Wholesome has been playing good on the line for Peoria High. Third and 18 for MacArthur on their own 27. Looking for some way to stay alive in this game as France throws a quick slant over to Harper. A short gain after he's brought down there by Romy Walker. I'll bring up a 4th and long, and at this point, not much of a reason to not go for it. So, see what MacArthur draws up here on 4th and 15.
Yeah, even if you don't convert and you give Peoria High good field position, you really don't have a choice, being down this much in the game. You just got to try to make some big plays happen.
Inside 4 minutes here in quarter number 3, the Lions lead by 40. After a first half that was neck and neck for the first quarter, Peoria High jumped out, scored 32 in quarter number 2, and they've put up 14 here already in the third stanza. Deep pass to Azarian Richardson is juggled. Bounced off the helmet, I believe, actually, of Phil Ellis before falling harmlessly out of bounds. So no interception there for France, who has looked good, aside from really only 2 throws. Pick to McFadden to end the first half, and then also a pick on the last drive to Eli McFadden, rather.
And almost a really nice catch. Just didn't catch the break there. And Peoria High's going to take back over with Odom and company. Might try to get him some more touches on the ground.
2.5 minutes left to go here in quarter number 3, and Peoria High has been in charge most of this game. And Odom brought down in the backfield by a trio of generals. King Smith led the charge along with a couple other helpers as well. So short gain for Odom. Second and 10 coming from the 30-yard line. Again, Peoria High with a win, they would move on to face the winner of Kankakee and Mount Vernon. If Kankakee wins, that game will be at Peoria Stadium next week, either Friday or Saturday night, as head coach Tim Thornton told me before the game. Guess looks down the field. He's got a man. That's Ricky Hearn inside the 10, and that one looked.
Might have had it.
They made it look easy.
I mean, it's just unbelievable what they've done, these receivers today. creating their own space and just bursting ahead upfield. It's been a well-rounded effort.
He gets a little bit of a high snap, hands off to Odom. He nears the goal line, and he is in. Frank Odom joins the touchdown party, and Peoria High has made it a 60-burger. Another quick drive for the Lions. And really, the last couple drives of them they've struck in very quickly. Just a couple plays, and that's all they need. That's what they've been doing all season long.
And we still have a whole nother quarter to play.
We do.
Peoria High is just explosive.
And Frank Odom tacks on 2 more for good measure.
Just to be sure.
Just to be sure. You can never be too sure. It is the playoffs. You know, you never want to leave anything out there on the field. As they lead at 62-14. Frank Odom providing some insurance for the Peoria High Lions after Malachi Washington came out of the game. And you know else who could provide you with some insurance. It's Jody Brown State Farm, our great sponsor here in Peoria. Give her a call at 309-693-1103 or visit jodybrownagency.com. Your friendly face in Peoria. All our other great sponsors, friendly faces and good neighbors, Zach Butler in Pekin, Jake Weston over in Washington. See their phone numbers and websites there on the screen. Give them a call for all your insurance needs. Refer a friend even. I want to give a shout out to Jody, Zach, and Jake for their support of high school athletics here in Central Illinois. 62-14, Peoria High leads, and again, the trend continues of them not having many close games. Again, 18 points was their closest game, and this one might be recovered by the Lions, and it looks like it is.
They did.
MacArthur had trouble corralling the ball, and it looks like Romy Walker, who's starting to have a big game, recovered it, and he is pumped up on the sidelines, runs here in a full sprint.
They're just doing everything right today.
Just an absolute clinic being put on by the Peoria High Lions. And during the regular season, obviously after a couple weeks, you think, okay, it's pretty common for them to have this type of score, but, in the IHSA playoffs, there are no bad teams. I mean, every team, regardless of class, regardless of seed, has won in multiple games this year. And every one of these teams is talented, and Peoria High is just dominating every phase of the game.
Yeah, they are, and it's, like you said earlier, John, it's not uncommon, though. That's what they've done throughout the season, is just put up big numbers, and today doing that same thing. I think this is exactly what Coach Tim Thornton would want in the opening round of the playoffs.
A very loud horn, startled me even, signals the end of the third quarter.
Sounded like a train.
It did indeed, and that train that you hear is the Peoria High Lions on a one-way ticket deep into the IHSA state playoffs in Class 5A. Looks like they'll be facing the winner of Kankakee and Mount Vernon next week. But, Joko, I mean, they've put up so many points, Peoria High has, in the last, 24 minutes of play. But where do you think was the turning point of this game? Because obviously there was one at some point, and then from there it just switched as an all Peoria High.
Yeah, I think, one thing, when they had the 8-0 lead, I think them making some stops, I feel like once they got up 2 scores, or 3 scores, I should say, the game was just kind of out of reach. I think MacArthur had some nice plays downfield, but they couldn't just convert for that big one. Their touchdown didn't come till late. So Peoria High, I mean, they weren't necessarily in control the whole time in that first quarter because MacArthur was playing catch-up, but second quarter and on, they've really just pulled away.
Certainly, and again, a huge momentum shift occurred at the end of the first half as Odom just tackled in the backfield right away.
Blake Ross on the carry.
Or rather, that was Blake Ross.
New quarterback out there as well.
Fully expect Peoria High's backups to play this fourth quarter, maybe get some more reps. And Kenny Rutherford steps in at quarterback. Saw him in week 4 against Manual, so he'll back up Tino Gist. Loss of 6 on the play. So a nice play there made by MacArthur's defensive line. And for MacArthur, obviously you feel for them because this is going to be the last high school football game for a lot of their players, as Rutherford pushed down well after a whistle. No flags being thrown, but again, this is going to be the last time on the football field for some players from MacArthur, as unfortunate as it is. But, you know, you see them still out there. You know, they're still trying. They're still putting the effort out there. Just shows you how much they love the game of football, and, you know, it's really just wanted to really savor these last moments they've had together. They've had a lot of special ones in the last 4 years.
Yeah, John, we saw that yesterday, you know, leaving the game in Pekin, Plainfield Central's players there till late, just embracing each other, some hugs, and obviously no matter if you win by 3 points or 20 points, it's still a loss that hurts.
Certainly, as Rutherford got out of a sack, what looked like between Kamar Gillespie and King Smith. Still not able to gain much, so it'll be 3rd and long. He actually lost a yard there. 4th and 18. Again, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday afternoon at Peoria Stadium, where Peoria High has made their mark on the MacArthur Generals. Alongside John Camosa, I'm Jonathan Michael. I want to give a shout out to our crew as well, doing a great job here today. Thatcher Zalewski and Rodrigo Perez running some great cameras. Josh Messenger directing our broadcast 2 nights in a row. Alex Calhoun producing as Rutherford's pass tipped away, incomplete. That'll bring up a 4th down as we are in running clock territory, if we haven't mentioned it already. And Francisco Alonso as well, doing great work taking pictures and updating our social media. Give us a follow at Clutch Sports IL on Twitter or Clutch Sports Media on Instagram. Stay tuned also for our schedule updates for next week's playoff matchups. Again, lots of games still going on across the state, and it might be a day or two before we know, but certainly there's going to be no shortage of good matchups of where we could go next week, Joko.
Yeah, you know, kind of up in the air at this point, but we do know that going forward, we're going to have Peoria High, Pekin, potentially Metamora. There's some local teams hanging around, Eureka, trying to get to that goal that everyone has, and that's a state championship.
How about Eureka, John? Again, a team in Class 2A. I don't know how many Peoria High fans are aware of Eureka's. Fred sticks up the middle. He has a huge hole across the 50. Cam France down to the 30-yard line. The biggest running play of the game for MacArthur. And that'll give the Generals something to cheer about. That hole is opened right up the middle. Credit the offensive line there for the visitors.
Yeah, just a huge run for France, and they still got their starters out there going up against Peoria High second, or I should say their second string.
Score updates from around the area. Last we checked, Metamora was leading Jacksonville 32-21 at halftime. No shortage of offense in that game. Normal West up 21-zip against Danville, so the Wildcats looking to take down a Big 12 conference foe in the first round as Roderick Millsap down across the 20. It was a nice burst of speed, and all of a sudden you put it on the ground and good things happen, John. 2 good running plays in a row for MacArthur, who's thrown for a very high percentage of plays here today.
It kind of bounced off his blocker and just took off. MacArthur trying to put another touchdown up on the board.
I certainly would love to have one, you know, maybe for pride purposes, maybe for, especially if it's a senior, you know, scoring your last touchdown in high school. You know, you'll remember where it'll come from. So, still trying to make their mark is MacArthur as flags fly. Another final wanted to mention briefly in the area, small school action. Elmwood Brimfield's season comes to a close as they lose 16-8 to Genoa Kingston. So a tough loss for Todd Hollis and the Trojans, a perennial playoff contender. They're always in the mix in the postseason, but they bow out after week 1. Running clock here in Peoria, just over 6 minutes to go, and really is a statement, John, when you can play the entire fourth quarter with a running clock. I mean, if Decatur were able to score and get a 2-point conversion, would still be running because Peoria High would be up by 40 points.
Yeah, and I think, anytime you're in a game with a running clock, you know that your offense was really on point to put up that many points. And Peoria High, they've had those running clocks a lot of times throughout the years.
Quite a bit. Majority of games they've played really have been running clocks. And again, Peoria High averages about 48 points a game. They have 62 right now. Their season high is 66, which they scored in back-to-back weeks, in week 4 and week 5. French with the throw. He's looking for his guy Singleton, a freshman wide receiver who was the hero against Springfield, catching a touchdown. His time expired. That's incomplete, but again, that's a play. If Singleton doesn't make that play in week 6, there's a chance that MacArthur is not even here right now. Again, that game would have gone to overtime if it would have been for Singleton's heroics. Again, because Springfield, they ended the season 4-5, so if they would have won that game, maybe we would have seen Springfield. Maybe not here, but at least in the 5A state playoffs. So back in week 6, that was a huge game. France looking for the end zone again, and he has a man, but it was incomplete. It was in the hands of Najir Woods, and he had it in his paws, and it just fumbled out of there. No touchdown for MacArthur. They'll try again on 4th and long. Woods, just a sophomore for this MacArthur team, but looking at some of the seniors, so likely their high school career is coming to a close for MacArthur. Roderick Millsap, Brylan McCood-Jones, who put up good numbers as Decatur MacArthur's starting quarterback most of the year before being injured in week 7. As there, Azarian Richardson as well, a senior for this team, and they go Woods' way again, and why not? Give him a second try, but that pass is broken up. Looks like by TQ Webb, playing some defense. And the Lions will take over as the clock continues to run.
I think you just
under 4 minutes.
Maybe 1 or 2 run plays and just kind of let this one wind down. But what a win for Peoria High.
No kidding. In the first round of the playoffs, again, as we mentioned, there are no bad teams in the IHSA state playoffs. And at Peoria High just still demolished the visiting Decatur MacArthur Generals. After a back-and-forth first quarter, they really just stomped on the gas in quarter number 2.
No sign of slowing down either. How about another big run?
And why not? Malik Ross getting some carries as well. So they're moving down potentially to the third stringers for Peoria High, getting them some playoff action.
And that's the nice part, with Peoria High's offense in a game like this. You get some backups, some playoff action, trying to put some stats up in the postseason. It's good for the whole team.
Certainly, and Peoria High, we haven't really talked about it maybe as much as we should, John, but we talked about how they have a lot of experience. Lots of seniors on the team like Ricky Hurd and Malachi Washington, Landon Newby Wholesome, and Eli McFadden, and the list goes on, but there's reason to be very optimistic in the future. It looks like MacArthur may have recovered a loose ball there. We'll await, but there's a lot of really talented underclassmen for the Lions as well, like, Deuce Thornton and Jaquarius Green on the offensive line. Green, we were talking outside my house one time, John. You said that he was getting some SEC looks potentially as a freshman. And with his size, it's really kind of hard to see why not.
I mean, when you look at Green at just a freshman and you think Big Ten teams, you think SEC, Big 12, 6'3", 389 pounds as a freshman. Still 4 years to really develop and grow, and it's no wonder colleges are on his radar.
Green likely will be playing at the next level eventually. Still a couple years away. Again, he's just a freshman. Again, Deuce Thornton, another big part of the Peoria offense. He plays a little bit of a hybrid of tight end and offensive lineman. He's just a sophomore. Big 12 honorable mention in his freshman year last year. Flag flies on the short run play. TQ Webb also has made a couple big catches today. A sophomore for Peoria High. A couple others as well. Malik Ross Jr. There's a chance that he could be the feature back for the Lions next year. So if you want a little taste of what Peoria may look like in 2023, Malik Ross could turn into the next Malachi Washington. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common trend. It's just Peoria High's loaded with running backs. You graduate one, next one comes up, almost like with Alabama, how he's just seen through the years with so many great running backs who go on to the NFL. But this is Peoria High sends these guys off to great colleges, and just the talent level. You look at Geno Hess, Karan Taylor, all the talent that's been through here, and Malachi Washington and company, they're shining this year.
A tradition of talent and tradition of success at Peoria High, and the pride of the city will live to see another day in the second round of the IHSA Class 5A state playoffs. Time will expire here in Peoria, and the Lions make a statement win over the Generals of Decatur MacArthur. 5 touchdowns for Malachi Washington. He was all over the place today. 5 two-point conversions as well. Tino Gist and TQ Webb hooked up for big plays. He also found Ricky Hearn as well. And big plays on defense by Eli McFadden, Kenny Rutherford. It really is a scary sight for any opposing team when you have that many playmakers peaking this late in the season.
I mean, it bodes well for Peoria High going forward. You got so many different guys that are just talented. Your defense is loaded offensively. And for Peoria High, I think right now, getting through this win, just hoping that Malachi Washington's good to go for next week. Didn't look extremely serious, just needed a little help off to the sideline, but they need their key guy moving forward. But Peoria High, they're looking every bit of postseason ready.
Certainly, and Peoria High will face either Kankakee or Mount Vernon in round 2 in Class 5A. If they were to win next week, that'd be the furthest they've gone in the playoffs since 2016 when they won the 5A state title. And anything short of that, the Lions want no part of this year. They have their eyes set on Champaign, and the first step is complete. A 62-14 win at home over the Decatur MacArthur Generals, who will end the season at 5-5. Again, I want to congratulate them on a good season. Another playoff berth for head coach Derek Space and company. Certainly lots of youth on this MacArthur team. They will be back. We may see them even next year when the Big 12 and the Central State 8 cross over in non-conference play. But John, I'll toss to you one final time. Your final takeaways from today.
Yeah, I thought the game started off in one that we said, well, it looks like Decatur MacArthur can hang around with Peoria High. That wasn't the case, and just so many good things I saw to Peoria High today. It starts with Malachi Washington, his offensive line, giving him those big holes to run through, and then most importantly, defense. Defense is such a key thing in the postseason, and there were some great throws from Decatur MacArthur quarterback Cameron France to wide receivers Azarian Richardson, Sam Owens, and Jatavian Harper. But the secondary for the Lions was able to just contain it to a point where they only scored 14 points. Well-rounded effort here at home today.
That will about wrap things up from Peoria. The Lions, a convincing 62-14 win. Watch out. This team is dangerous, and they are coming for the state title. I want to thank all of our crew here at Clutch Sports Media. And for my broadcast partner, John Camosa, I'm Jonathan Michael signing out after this big win from the Lions. Thank you for tuning in and spending your Saturday afternoon with us. We'll see you next week for more IHSA playoff action here on ClutchSportsIL.com. So long and have a good day, everybody.